Hello. Welcome to 1.21 Jigowatts. I'm Matt. That's Tim.
Hello.
And we talk about movies. More importantly, more recent movies that are usually in theaters.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about Solo, a Star Wars story.
Mhm.
Uh, and for the record, me and Tim are both really big Star Wars fans. So
Oh yeah.
paint this a little bit, but we'll try to be objective. Can't promise.
Sure.
Uh, Usually here with me is Connor and
Mhm.
sometimes Pete, especially for Star Wars. But Pete got banned from his theater from from seeing Star Wars. So and Connor's busy, which I know that's heartbreaking for him because he's probably one of the biggest Star Wars fans I know. Because like he even reads all the novels and all that. So yeah. So yeah, Solo. This is a it's not a prequel, right? Because we don't like to use that word.
Yeah,
Star
I wouldn't
Wars,
consider it, no.
right? But it is a origin, if you will,
Mhm.
for everyone's favorite, scruffy looking,
Smuggler.
yeah,
Oh,
Nerf herder, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, and I think it had a huge hurdle to jump through because
Mhm.
we're coming off of The Last Jedi, which came out back in the winter, right before Christmas, and we've only really had 5 months in between.
Mhm.
Uh, so I just know my expectations were tampered a little bit. Plus, it had a troubled production.
Yeah, I know like for me personally, I was kind of falling into a lot of the stuff you were hearing about online. Like, they're talking about it was Lord and Miller originally were supposed to
Mhm.
direct, and then they dropped out, and then it seemed like there's director troubles for a bit, and then they're talking about having like problems with the main actor on set. So I definitely was down right up until maybe like a month or two ago, once I actually started seeing the trailers a lot. Like the trailers started to get me excited for it.
Yeah, those
Uh,
trailers were really great. They had like
yeah,
this rhythm to them that made it not feel like any other Star Wars trailer I had seen to this
yeah,
point.
mhm,
Yeah, and I was hoping that was the vibe of the movie because we felt these very, I don't want to say constrained, but I don't have a
mhm,
better word, like of what Star Wars is
mhm.
and how it's presented. And I felt between all of the drama that happened with Lord and Miller and Kathleen Kennedy, uh, this felt the opposite.
Oh,
So
for
I felt like they
sure.
really leaned into that,
Yeah.
and I actually think it helped because it seems like it both got you and me
Oh, yeah.
more invested. Because this was one that
Mhm.
I didn't think it was coming out in May. I thought they were really going to push it,
Yeah.
and lo and
I was
behold,
surprised once they revealed the release date. I was like, oh,
yeah,
really? And
they're
because
sticking
this
to
is
it.
and this was the first new one that we had like this
Yeah,
early, because all before
yeah.
they all been December, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they were meant to come out in May, starting with Force Awakens, because that was generally when Star Wars movies came out. But JJ needed it to be pushed back, uh, and then that caused the rest of them. But I guess Ron
Mhm.
Howard, who was brought in, is
Mhm.
that much of a journeyman that he got it in on time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, I could be wrong about this, but is like Solo your guy? Like when you're talking like original cast, like he's
Yep.
like your
So
dude.
as a kid, I was all about Luke Skywalker, right? He's the main
Mhm.
guy.
Mhm.
But the older I get, the more I'm just like, oh man, Han Solo. That's a dude that's seen some things.
Oh yeah, I
And
mean, he's easily maybe like one of the most like charming. Like
yep.
for me, like you said, yeah, I'm a huge lifelong Star Wars fan. I usually tend to like more of the kind of Jedi stuff. Like I'm totally a Luke guy. So I obviously don't have a problem with Han Solo. Like, yeah, I love him. He's great, but um, I guess wasn't someone I originally was super excited like to see a solo like
Mm-hmm.
it feels weird saying
Whole
a
movie.
solo movie, but
Yeah, it's a solo,
yeah.
right?
But I mean, yeah, again, like talking about like the trailers were getting me hyped, and then spoiler alert, well, not a real spoiler, but a spoiler
Right.
for my opinion, but I totally love this movie. I was really
Uh,
surprised at how much I dug it.
yeah, this is a very much a Matt movie because
Hmm.
it checks all the boxes that I love with
Sure.
adventure. It has a sense of humor,
Hmm.
and it's not as heavy. That was my big thing coming out of The Last Jedi. It's very heavy at points and very like ham-fisted of what Ryan Johnson wanted to do. And I feel like here it benefited from Ron Howard just coming in to tell the story.
Yeah,
Like, Go
Yeah,
ahead.
like this is sorry, yeah, like this is like just totally like no matter how you feel about like Last Jedi, it's a very kind of derisive movie, but
Yep.
I think either way, like yeah, there is heavy stuff in it. While there's definitely serious stuff
Mhm.
in this movie, but I think it's also just like a lot of fun. Like
Yeah.
like it seems like, and even like the other spin-off movie that we have to compare, Rogue
Yeah.
One, that too was telling a big grand story, and this
Hmm.
just seemed like obviously it's still telling a story, but it seemed to much more focus on like, let's just have fun. Like, let's have like a ride that, you're
Yeah.
going to take. And I was really happy with that.
That's exactly right. Because it kind of is the spirit of Han Solo, where it's this
Yeah.
charming, you're just going to roll with the punches and go along with it. And, there were parts where I was questioning, like, oh man, especially at the beginning, like,
Mhm.
oh man, but those fade away super fast. So I think
Yeah.
we should jump into our, first half of this is going to be spoiler free.
Mhm.
So if you haven't seen it and you're still made it this far, you're free to keep watching. We'll let you know when we hit that big space wall that is spoilers,
Yeah.
and we'll try to make that run in less than 12 parsecs. Can't promise that.
I was waiting for the parsec
All
to run.
right, you gotta. So yeah, so the movie opens and it's very like drab. They're on Corellia,
Mhm.
and it kind of gels with what I know of Han Solo. Like I'm not an EU guy,
Mhm.
so but I have a vague familiarity with it.
Mhm.
So it started to check some boxes that I knew, but it almost feels like a war movie
Oh
where
yeah.
there you can tell the Empire's come in and occupied, and it's kind of made the lives worse for these people. And you're introduced to Han and Kira, played by Emilia Clarke, Khaleesi from Game of Thrones, and you get this underworld vibe, which is kind of what you want in Han Solo, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we meet him in the very first in A New Hope.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a street rat, and we get to see
I
how
think
he
what they call them
interacts.
scum rats or something, I
It's
think.
coming at something along those
Yeah.
lines. Yeah, so we get to all that, and we see him basically make a break for it, and he encounters like the local crime lord, and she's called Lady, and I can't remember. It's been a while, a couple days since I've seen this.
Yeah.
I don't have the wiki up, but
Well, I have to wait till like they release like some new updated Star Wars guide to characters book or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
because
But
that's what
so
I used to have like as a kid, the essential guide to characters.
and like the visual where
Yeah.
yeah, but we meet her.
I will say there are some like aliens in this that I absolutely love that I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I want to get to know like this person's name.
yeah. Yeah, and it does what the old movies did well, where it's people in suits. It's not so much
Yeah.
CG
Mhm.
creatures. But yeah, they meet this crime lord on Corellia, and she's like this snake creature, or like a millipede of some kind.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of funny because it's like, oh, does he just always end up working for like these giant
But
kind of like yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's in his character.
Yeah.
So he does the Han Solo charming thing where he tries to talk his way out, ends up making a break for it with Kira. We get some cool car chase stuff,
Mhm.
which I felt very George Lucas because we all know
Oh
how he
yeah.
felt about cars and whatnot. So I was like, okay, well, this feels like Han Solo so far.
Yeah.
So we're good. Uh, he runs into some stormtroopers and they get to the spaceport. And of course, him and Kira get separated because we need a driving
Yeah.
force for the movie. And I felt like really this is kind of where I started to get worried because it
Yeah.
becomes very soap opera over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get separated. She like makes him go, and he goes to fill out to basically enlist because he has nowhere else to go
Mhm.
into the Imperial Academy.
Yeah.
And he just gives his name as Han. And this is my first big problem.
Okay.
And he goes, well, the guy that's enlisting is like, Han what? And he goes, Solo, just nothing. It's just Han. He goes, okay, that's fine with it. And
Yeah.
I cringed so hard.
Yeah, that was like there's a couple of things like this in the movie like where I don't think they do it too much, but there was one or two instances where they'll kind of like show something or explain something where I'm like, that didn't need explained. Like no. Like no one like questioned like, oh yeah, he has a cool name. Like we don't need to know the origins of that.
It works. And
Yeah.
so that's what got to me was I'm gonna put my negative thoughts up front. Usually I put those at
Okay.
last, but most of my issues with the movie come from those moments that you're talking
Mhm.
about, where it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, look at this thing you recognize from other movies.
Yeah, it feels like, oh, like you don't have like faith in your own movie standing out, that you
Like
have to constantly remind people like, oh, remember the thing you like? It's like, no, like just like, we like what you're
just
doing, just keep doing
exactly,
it.
yeah. And then the other main problem was the pacing. I felt like it was a little choppy
Sure.
at points,
Yeah.
but not. I mean, not that I was like, oh man, when is this over? It was just like it felt very episodic, and it felt like some episodes were longer than the
Mhm.
other. And I can kind of rationalize that away, being like that's the nature of Star Wars,
Yeah.
based off sci-fi serials and whatnot.
Mhm.
But yeah, so he enlists. He ends up on this planet, and it's just a mud hole. And you could tell he's not a very good soldier. And he sees Woody Harrelson kind of like being sneaky, and he's also dressed as like a captain in the Empire Army and whatnot. And this is how they have their meet cute, right?
Yeah.
And he ends up working with Woody Harrelson, and that jettisons him into the rest of the adventures of the movie, where he meets Chewbacca and becomes this rogue.
Lando. Yeah.
Yeah, Lando and all this other stuff, and we see the Kessel Run, which is super cool. Like,
Yeah.
and we very much get his relationship with the law, where yeah, he's on the outside of the law, but he has his own code of honor.
Mhm.
So there's certain things that he won't tolerate, even though he's doing it, in
Yeah.
the shadows. And I like that. I felt like that nailed the Han Solo character.
There's one. I don't think this is like super spoilery, because we know
Yeah.
Han's a good guy and stuff. But there's like
Yep.
one line early on when he is enlisted in the Empire, and I think the commanding officer is talking about how like, oh, like we gotta, like, they're on this planet, like, oh, like we gotta fight back these invaders or something, and Han's like, we are the invaders, like,
Yeah.
like he like immediately questions it and stuff, and you'd
Mhm.
see how it gets him in trouble. And then but it's nice to see, like, oh yeah, like he, even if he's in the Empire for a little bit, it's not because he agrees with it, or
Yeah.
or
He was using it
anything.
as a like most things that we've seen him, he's using it as a means to an end. Like when we first meet him in A New Hope, he's really just trying to get off of Tatooine to get
Yeah.
away from Jabba. And sure, he's gonna take the old man's money when he gets to where they need to go,
Yeah.
but he just uses people as a means to an end.
Yeah.
So
But I
yeah,
I I'm sorry. I was
no,
just
go
gonna
ahead.
say, like, no, I do agree. Yeah, like with your points, like, yeah, there was some pacing stuff, and like the I do have one kind of bigger complaint, but
Mhm.
I have to save it for spoiler stuff.
Spoilers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's why I'm just trying to
but
get the broad strokes here,
yeah,
and then we'll hit that spoiler wall. But
but I
the
mean, yeah,
thing.
like all that stuff aside, though, again, just still want to emphasize, I still had a great time. It was like a lot of
Oh,
fun, like, and
yeah.
I think one of the things I like the most is that it just felt like it had like a lot of the stuff like in the original trilogy that I really liked, where it's just like fun set pieces and like really cool like background characters. Like, again, it's going back to seeing all these interesting characters and aliens that you're looking in the background like, oh, this looks cool,
Yep.
and stuff. And
Well, even in when we meet Paul Bettany's character,
oh, right.
Voss,
Yeah. Mhm.
like his yacht room is like
Yeah.
filled with cool stuff that I want to see, and we
Yeah.
don't get to spend much time with any of them. But there's little stuff on his desk and trophy cases that felt like a lived-in universe.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
which is what Star Wars always had felt like to me. Like it was part of this big, grander thing.
Yeah,
And,
like the best part about it is that you look at this stuff and you want to know more. Like,
yep.
and and actually something like you kind of said a little earlier about how you aren't a big EU guy.
Mhm.
Like I unfortunately I don't have a lot of time like anymore to
Yep.
like do deep dives into that stuff. But like growing up, I loved like all those books and stuff, and there was actually like a surprising number of like EU references in here, which like really
Mhm.
like made me smile. Like just like little stuff and like names here and there. But I just think it was cool that yeah, they pay homage to, again, the more bigger expanded universe, and it kind of reminded me of those old stories where it's like yeah, this feels familiar, but at the same time is doing something like kind of new and different I haven't seen before.
And that's why I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
And because
It's
I feel
like
like
a crime caper, like
it is.
you know.
It's and it takes from film noir and it takes from westerns. And to me, Star Wars has always been an amalgamation of different things. Like, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
sci-fi, but it's also fantasy, and it's an adventure serial. It's also a war movie. It's never just one thing. It plays in all those sandboxes. And here, it's the same thing. Like I just said, it's film noir. You have Kira, who's very much a femme fatale,
Oh
and you
yeah.
don't quite know where she stands. But you also have Western iconography, just the way that Han wears his blaster on his hip,
Yep.
and there's a train robbery. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't get much more Western than a train robbery, right?
Yeah.
So, and I feel like it actually takes somebody like Ron Howard, who I don't feel he has a style. Like, you don't look at a movie and go,
Sure.
"Oh, that's a Ron Howard," but I do feel he understands story on a level that some directors don't. Because you look at something like Apollo 13, and it's basically like a bottle movie. You know, it's these three guys just trapped in a capsule trying to survive, and you get look-ins to Houston every once in a while. But what makes that movie work is that you care about all of those astronauts. And I feel here where in some of the previous Star Wars movies, you don't quite care about some of the characters. I care about the majority of them in this one.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Whether if it's L3, who's the new, like, snap, what's the word?
Sassy robot.
Yeah, she's a sassy droid who has a very defined character, to even Kira, who's this femme fatale. And then, Han and Chewie, who I already have, vested interest in, but there are parts that I worry, because even though I know they're going to make it out, you see them in the other movies, in the moment, I feel like Ron Howard did a good job at making me care about what's going on.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. And actually, I was really, it's kind of like dumb to sound to say, but like I, as I was watching it, I was so like caught up in Han Solo, like I completely forgot like about Chewbacca. And then once he's introduced, I was like, oh yeah, because I'm a huge Chewbacca fan. I love Chewie.
Okay.
And yeah, once he was back in, I was like, I think. Like I like the stuff in the beginning, but like you said, like I was a little apprehensive. But I think once Chewie was introduced, that's when like I was really like, oh yeah, I'm fully on board. With this, and I think he gets like a lot of good moments.
Oh, he does. I don't want to say he's the heart of the movie, but I feel kind of once he's introduced and you see his relationship with Han, that's where it really comes together. So I think we've set up all that we can before getting dangerously close to spoilers.
I think like bottom line, like we both really liked it, despite maybe like a few problems here and there. And
definitely.
I mean, if you like Star Wars, it's come on.
Well, yeah, I'm just gonna say this, and it sounds crazy, and I've already had people question me on it. This is my favorite Star Wars movie, like
of all time.
Of all time, yeah. So up to this point, it was A New Hope. Yeah. Like, and I understand that Empire is probably the best made of them, but to my sensibilities, it was A New Hope, and this feels of the same, animal, I guess, of A New Hope. Like, it's just this action-y adventure, good character stuff, with a sense of humor, and it's just a movie I felt made for me.
So. I wouldn't fight you on that. I think it's like it's almost like hard to say, like you don't want to ever say anything other than the original trilogy, but I wouldn't hold that against you.
Yeah. So, but I'm also a weird guy like that. So you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I mean, I love the Ewok song. What? Yep.
That's fair.
So let's go into spoilers, and we could talk about the main crux of the movie, because basically what happens is, so spoilers going forward. Pete would kill me if I didn't make this note. We're gonna hit hyperspace or hyperdrive and leave everyone else that doesn't want to know key plot details.
Yeah.
This is your getting off point. So thanks for watching. For the rest of you.
Yeah.
We're heading
We've bribed the Imperial Guard. We've gone through the doors. If you haven't seen it, you're gonna be left behind.
Exactly. You're gonna make a fake name going forward. So anyways, so we see Han. He meets Woody Harrelson's character, and I should have all these names up, because it sounds Beckett. There you go. Tobias Beckett, which is also the most weirdly normal sounding name.
Yeah,
All
yeah. It's
Star
like, oh,
Wars.
this is a name that could exist.
And he feels like a Danny Ocean from Ocean's 11. Like he's
Mhm.
always the guy with the plan. And you find out that him and his crew, which is a lady named Val, who you can kind of sense that her and Tobias are together,
Mhm.
and then this third character, uh, and they're constantly arguing. They look like they don't belong. Han picks up on it immediately,
Mhm.
and they're there to steal some Imperial equipment for their next job. Uh, Han ends up getting in on it. They instantly turn on him because
Yeah.
they're like, we're not going to have this kid ruining our score. And
Um,
that's how he meets Chewbacca because they throw him in the brig with the Wookiee.
mhm. And
Go
I
ahead.
I kind of like that they weren't instantly like, hey, you got chops, kid. Like, all right, you want to
Yeah,
join us? Like, I like that they're kind of like, oh, okay, good job, you figure us out, and then immediately they're like,
yeah,
just report them.
yeah, exactly. Because that's what they would do because these guys make this as a living, you know. But then we get to see Han and his relationship with Chewie as we find out he knows Shiriwook, which is
Oh
the
yeah.
language of the Wookiees, which I thought's hilarious because the first time he pulls it out, it sounds like he's gargling on mud.
Mhm.
And then you realize that no, he's talking and Chewie starts to understand him.
Yeah.
So they work together to get free. And right there, it's the beginning of a bromance.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I love them escaping and like
mhm.
they're chained together and like
Yep.
Chewie just basically starts like dragging them.
Yep. Exactly. He throws them at one point
Yeah.
because you can see that Wookiee strength.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he ends
Oh,
up.
wait, a
Go
quick
ahead.
thing. All right. I want to see what your opinion on this, because I was kind of like arguing about this with a friend the other day. So they're keeping like Chewbacca, the Empire. They're keeping him like chained
Mhm.
up in this pit.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that Chewbacca actually ate the other prisoners that were thrown down there?
I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
he might have killed them as a,
like
you
they were
know,
forced to fight,
fight
probably.
exactly,
Yeah.
and with his strength, because
Mhm.
we see him rip the arms off of
Yeah.
somebody later in the movie, which I've always wanted to see a Wookiee do.
Yeah.
So I popped for that one.
Oh, and it was
But
super funny too when
yeah,
when he does that. And Han's like, "Well, I was the same size of that outfit. I could have wore it as a
yeah,
disguise." But
exactly. Well, you
but
do
yeah,
you, man. But yeah,
but I was arguing
I
with
don't
my
think he ate them.
yeah, because my friend said like one of the officers has a line with it like, "Oh, like the beast hasn't eaten for a while." But I think that was more of a them kind of dehumanizing him and
Yeah.
like and that kind of thing. Like I'm sure that Chewbacca was forced to fight him and stuff, but I just
Yeah.
don't feel like he was eating people.
No, because I don't feel like you can go from eating people to teaming up with a guy
Yeah,
just because he
that's kind
speaks
of
your
weird.
language.
Yeah.
It's too much of a snap. And that's what the Empire does. They dehumanize all these creatures. And there's
Yeah.
always this, fan theory that Chewie's always been involved in the Resistance and the Rebellion. So,
Yeah.
like, what was he doing on this mud planet to begin with? Like, was he sent there by whoever, what's Leia's
At some
dad's name?
point, don't they mention that he's looking for his family or tribe? I don't know if maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I kind of want to know what they were doing there because
yeah,
we saw him in Revenge of the Sith
true. Yeah,
on Kashyyyk, and whatnot. And this is a couple years. This is 10 years before before A New Hope. So
yeah. I was
yeah,
trying to place the timeline in my head. I figured it was probably somewhere around there.
yeah,
Because
uh,
like Empire's in full swing. You have stormtroopers all around. Like, so it must be after that. But I heard some people
uh,
complain about that. Like they were like, I don't know when this is supposed to take place. I think some people were confused because of the reveal towards the end. But I'm like, it's clearly, between
well,
like 3 and 4.
yeah. And we'll get to that reveal because that reveal
Yeah.
came out of nowhere, and it sounds like a complaint, but it's not a complaint because
Yeah.
I freaked out.
I was all for it.
So they join the crew, and him and Chewie, they bring Chewie on his muscle. That's kind of why they keep Han around, because like, oh well, the Wookiee likes him. So,
Yeah.
and we see the teamwork here. Come to find out that the third guy was this alien voiced by Jon Favreau,
Yeah.
who's like this weird ape-looking guy that has 6 arms or 4 arms and a leg. His name's
Yeah.
Rico. He was super cool.
Yeah, I liked him.
A lot, yeah. Rico Durant. I don't know what type of alien he is, but he was, he instantly gels with Han because Han's a
Yeah.
pilot, and they bond, and
And
we
he's
see
like
them
funny. He has like some like like good lines and stuff. He's a
yeah,
very likable character.
very much so, and it's always good to see Favs in there because he
Yeah.
was on Rebels, not Rebels, Clone Wars, as Pre
Oh,
Vizsla, yeah,
okay.
as a Mandalorian guy, which is super dope.
Oh, cool.
Creates the dark saber. It's a fun time. You should watch it, Timmy.
Yeah, I got to go back. It's just a time issue, but I've heard good
I
things.
gotcha. So we see them on their first job, and each of them has a role to play. So Chewie, so they're robbing this train. A lot of we kind of skipped over it in the beginning, but the MacGuffin in this movie is this new kind of fuel that they use all across the galaxy, and it's super unstable, and so you have to be super careful with it. And that's how they bribe the customs official with at in the very beginning. I'm looking for the name of this stuff.
Is it just
Coaxium.
hyper? Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's basically hyperspace fuel.
Yeah.
Like what powers the hyperspace engines and whatnot. And it's just dark matter kind of deal. And in these unsettled areas, it's like gold. Like
Yeah.
it's the currency. So basically, what Tobias and his guys are doing is they're going to rob this train. They're going to take it because they have a crime lord to pay off, and it starts to go sideways. Each one has their role to play, and come to find out that there's these marauders that have been following them around, and led by Infus Nest. Such a cool looking character too. Like
Really like
I was
that
kind of
design.
getting a little kind of getting Boba Fett vibes out of
I
him.
can see that. Yeah.
Big helmet, primal looking, barbarian-esque. So it's real cool. And they just ruined this for them. And we lose Rico. He gets shot at as he's providing cover by one of these guys. And it was sad because I wanted more of that little dude. Like, he was fun. And then Beckett's girlfriend, Val, she has to blow up the bridge before she can get clear and sacrifices herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we see Beckett kind of at the end of his rope, and he takes Han to negotiate with Dryden Voss to explain what went wrong. And so we go, and this is the first time we're really getting some Underworld vibes out of this movie. Like, we'd seen it a little bit back on Corellia, but now this feels like, from what I've heard, the video games were like in the 90s, like Shadows of the Empire and whatnot.
This I always forget. I keep forgetting Paul Bettany's name.
Dryden Voss.
Dryden Voss. So yeah, he reminded me a lot of Prince Shizor, who's like the main bad guy from Shadows.
Mm-hmm. That's what made me think. So I'm not that well versed in EU or even video games, but I know from reading Nintendo Power in the late 90s, like mid to late 90s, I'm familiar with characters like Dash Rendar and Prince Shizor.
Oh yeah.
So, from those games and whatnot. But yeah, he's this, very ritzy mob boss. And as I was saying in this pre-spoiler section, he's got this yacht that it's this big, tall, like the size of a building, right? And he's at the top floor. It's almost like his penthouse. And it's just filled with all these different artifacts. And I feel like you can have a movie based off of each one of these artifacts as the MacGuffin. Someone pointed out to me that the Chachapoyan fertility idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark is in there.
Okay.
But
I kept thinking I kept thinking that the I kept looking at the big skull in the background. I didn't know if that was supposed to be a crystal skull or not.
It could have been.
Kind of looked like it, but
I'm going to see this movie again at some point, and I'll take a better look.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're introduced to him by Tobias Beckett, and they're in this party. Han's trying to fit in. He can't. He's a street kid. He has no business being here.
Yeah.
And he runs back into Kira, who is now working for Dryden Voss. And it's super awkward between the two. But it's good to see. I really liked Emilia Clarke in this role. Because outside of Game of Thrones, she hasn't had really much to do.
Yeah.
So, how'd you feel about her?
I liked her. I just recently got into Game of Thrones, but I think she's great on that, and I thought she was really good on this. If I have maybe a minor complaint, you think of Star Wars as such like a huge big galaxy, it does seem kind of weird that it's like two people like just randomly run into each other
Yeah,
again.
but I feel that
But
that's fate in the Force and whatnot.
true, yeah.
No,
It's a very minor thing. Like it
it
doesn't
is.
really hamper my enjoyment because yeah, like you definitely want her on the team. Like she has such like a good dynamic with Han.
Yeah,
It
they
was
have
great to
a
see.
really good chemistry just between them because they feel like they are old friends that
Yeah.
have lost each other over the last like 3-4 years, and you feel something's up with her from the very beginning.
Mhm.
You see that she has a mark. What was that group?
Crimson Dawn.
Crimson Dawn,
Yeah.
which is another great.
Which I think is from the EU stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I don't think it's like a necessarily specific like book. I think it's more kind of like they appear in multiple books as just kind of like the de facto underground empire or criminal stuff.
Yeah. So Crimson Dawn, I think it's a nice entry
Mhm.
into this because up to this point in the movies, I think it's only Jabba in the Hutt Syndicate,
Yeah.
really. So I like that. Let's say we are going forward with these
Mhm.
movies set in this time period. It doesn't even have to be Han Solo. It could be Boba
Yeah.
Fett. It could be Lando. Because we haven't even gotten to him yet.
And
But
it's nice to have a bad guy or force
yeah,
or whatever that's not the empire. Like
yeah,
it's cool to be like, oh no, like there's it's not just the empire's this big bad and everything else is peaceful in the galaxy. It's like, oh yeah, no, there is this underlying element of other types of danger.
yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And we see him like for the first time.
Mm.
He is like straight up murdering a dude with
Yeah.
some energy like blade thing. It's not a lightsaber, it doesn't operate or sound like one, but it's almost like the lightsaber's kind of cousin,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
right? And
It's like the
he just
handy like little pocket size model.
yeah. It's so he's threatening a dude, kills a dude, and then cleans up and presents himself as this higher upper crust man, and
Yeah.
uh,
Which I
and
love that kind of duality of him where like at no point are you kind of like not scared of him, and then
no,
his ability to go back and forth between like the raging homicidal maniac to the like
yeah,
businessman, like, so what do you got for me?
exactly. And and you feel like this is the type of person that's the perfect foil for Han,
Yeah.
because you feel like Han might not be able to talk his way out,
Yeah.
and it creates a good foil. And basically now that, because Beckett, who is this guy's main smuggler, it's very reminiscent of Jabba and Han. Like, and I feel they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Is Beckett's like, we'll make it up to you. Don't kill me. I lost some of my crew on this. It was a disaster, and so he gives them an opportunity. Basically, gives them an impossible mission, to where they're gonna go to Kessel, and Han comes up with this plan and extract raw coaxium, have it refined, and then Voss is going to pick it up. And as insurance, Voss sends Kira. Basically, since Kira and Han are such good friends, they fail the mission. Kira's dead.
Yeah.
So add some stakes there. And you can tell that Voss doesn't play around. He'll sacrifice his own people if it means maintaining his power. And to me, this is where the movie really picks up. And the pacing stops being so much of an issue, because not that anything was long and drawn out, but like the train scene looked fantastic, and then it slows back down again, and
it kind of feels like everything before that was set up to okay, now we have like the main mission, the characters are we haven't been introduced to Lando yet, but it's coming up soon, and we're almost good to go.
Yeah, and of course that's how we get introduced to Lando. They find a Sabak game. Well, Kira knows of Lando as like the best smuggler in the galaxy, which is hilarious. And we see him at a Sabak game, and Han is like, "Oh, okay, this is how we're gonna get the ship. I'm gonna win the ship from him, and we're gonna go." And we get to see the Sabak game where Han wins the Falcon, which I pop for, because this is like Han Solo lore. I love Han Solo. I love the Falcon. Like, so, and then Lando.
All this stuff was great, and I think this is like an example of this kind of stuff done well, where like you hear about this stuff in like the original movies, and then sometimes when they in other movies they'll show you how it happens, you kind of roll your eyes and you're like, oh, this is it. But I think this is an example of it done well, where you're like, oh, okay, this is like fun and it's showing you, what we already know, but doing it in like a cool, like interesting way that doesn't make you angry or
Yeah,
anything.
and at the Sabak table, which Sabak's a game that's a lot like poker. Like I'm just gonna call it space poker. Like that's what it
Yeah,
is.
it's fair.
And you see all these different kinds of aliens. It feels very much like the Mos Eisley Cantina,
Mm-hmm.
where it's all of these weird looking creatures at one place, but everyone feels like they belong there. Like it's
Yeah.
this weird dichotomy.
Mhm.
And let's give it up for Donald Glover
Oh,
as
fantastic! Yeah,
as Lando, because he simultaneously does his own thing, but also pays homage to Billy D. Williams.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
the main guy that's doing Han, like I think he was good. Which like I think that was a big thing coming before the
Yep.
movie. People are saying like, oh, he needs acting lessons. He's not that great, but I think it was certainly fine. But yeah, it does feel like he's kind of just trying to do forward and stuff. But like Lando was like such a standout where
Yes.
yeah, like you said, he's doing his own thing, but he also feels and sounds like the character, and is just a fantastic job. Like every I don't think he's in the movie as much as maybe a lot of people were hoping.
Yeah, the marketing makes it sound like he's definitely a co-lead.
Yeah.
And he is not. He plays his part, and kind of what you need out of Lando.
Yeah, but it definitely was like I feel like he kind of stole the scene like anytime he was on screen.
Oh, easy. Just the way he stands, the way he talks.
Mhm.
Like, he is the smoothest guy in the galaxy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I want to go back real quick to, about Alden Ehrenreich. And
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you said he was doing a version of Ford. I felt like he kind of was, but he kind of wasn't. I felt like
Okay.
he was doing Han, which
Oh,
is,
okay. True. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because there's certain mannerisms that he does.
Mhm.
And I felt early on he was trying to do the voice, and I think Ron Howard told him to cut it out.
Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
I don't, like, people say he's such a bad actor. I don't think he is.
No,
Yeah.
I liked him in this movie. I thought he was good.
Yeah. Did you see Coen Brothers' Hail Caesar?
Oh, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was
that's the
that,
first
like,
time. Yeah, he's the hayseed cowboy.
Yeah.
Kind of Will Rogers kind of guy. So, but yeah, I was surprised because I went in thinking, I love Harrison Ford. We all know I love Indiana Jones and Han Solo. And, a detective book from Witness, right? Like, he's just always this grumpy, cantankerous guy. And I felt like this is a Han that hasn't, like, yeah, he's been through some stuff, but he hasn't been through all of it yet.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a little more gung ho in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's less reserved than Han. And Han's not that reserved when we see him in the original trilogy.
Mhm.
He's still very much. And I think a lot of that comes from Kasdan, Lawrence Kasdan,
Oh, yeah.
who wrote this, I think, with his son. So it's very familiar with Han.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we can keep going now. So
Sure.
we see this Hobbit game, and Han does beat Lando, but
Yeah.
Lando's a filthy cheater. So he doesn't win the Falcon outright. Like, we see the card up his sleeve and whatnot, and that sets something up for later. But Lando gets in on this mission, and we get introduced to L3, who's his droid. And it's weird because I'm so used to Lando with Lobot,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it's cool that he's kept a similar kind of friend around for so long. But L3, I think, really stole her scenes too, as the
She was
sassy
great.
robot that has her own personality. She really is Lando's Chewie, down
Yeah.
to the co-pilot of the Falcon.
Yeah, I loved like the scene with her and Kira on the Falcon. That was great.
And it gets into this whole droid thing, and I feel like this movie, while it's a fun romp, it does have some things to say, because we get introduced to like slavery in Star Wars and like droid rights and stuff I'm not used to seeing in these, but it doesn't spend too much time on them, you know? So, but I think L3 is a really good version of how to do it, because she never distracts from what's going on, while they also don't downplay what she's about.
Yeah. Definitely. And yeah, that scene with her freeing all the droids is like really fun.
Yep, exactly.
And yeah, spoiler alert, what happens to her is pretty sad.
It is sad. So we get to Kessel, and it's this mining planet, which we get a fun line out of Lando going, ugh, who would ever live on a mining planet? Because the first time we're introduced to him, it's on Bespin, which is a mining colony, right? and it's really terrible conditions. And Kira plays like she's working for this higher up person, and they're there to check out the facilities. They're going to trade slaves, which ends up being Han and Chewie, and whatnot. And we get introduced to the Kessel Run early, to where to get to Kessel, you have to go through this gigantic storm that surrounds the planet. And to get there, there's a safe path. It's almost as if like rough waters in the ocean is, if you stray off, like, yeah, you might be fine or you might disappear. And so they get to Kessel safely, which is, again, set up for how they're gonna have to leave. They cause chaos. They get the coaxium, and we see L7 deviate, or L3. It's L337. I've been doing that a lot lately. And kind of ruin the mission by freeing all of these slaves, because and droids, because she sees restrictor like things on them, and it causes chaos. They still manage to get out of there with the coaxium, which is super unstable. So now they have a time clock, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's all the rushing that leads to their situation getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
That's a shout out to Lando as well.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna say that at some point.
Me too.
Like, especially when they're talking about like he gets 25% of the profits or whatever, and it's like, oh, you're down to 20. And I was like, all right, here it comes. But
and it didn't. But so as they're making a break for it with the coaxium, we see Chewie leaves to go free he sees some Wookiees, and I liked it because it shows Chewie's character, and it got rid of that life debt that I know a lot of EU fans are on about. I've never been a fan of the idea of a life debt, because it makes it feel like Chewie's obligated to be around Han. Yeah,
like I kind of like the idea of, like, it's fine if maybe that's originally why they hooked up, but I like the idea of that, well, they're past that now. They're just friends at this point.
And I even felt that in this movie too, because Han's like, well, it's been nice knowing you, man, but you got to do what you feel is right.
Yeah.
And Chewie ends up coming back. Like, he frees the Wookiees and goes and helps Han and whatnot. And that's when we see him rip the arms off during this mission. And
that was the only thing I was kind of like, again, maybe a little nitpicky, but I kept expecting, like, Chewie to go off and, free the Wookiees. And I kept thinking that Han was going to go, like, he's going to be conflicted, but go like, all right, fine, I'll come help you.
Yeah.
But
which we get a lot of that though, because I've always felt like people criticize Han as, oh, he's not much of a rogue and a scoundrel as everyone thinks he is.
Yeah.
Well, no, he projects that image and he tells people that, but anytime he gets a chance to go help his friends, he goes and does it. And that's consistent throughout this movie. It's consistent through the prequel trilogy, or the original trilogy, and then the sequel trilogy is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
In Force Awakens.
Yeah. When it comes down to it, he does what's right.
Exactly. And we see that here. He's conflicted by a lot of what he does. And, also the first time we get to see the Falcon, I bumped over this. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to our listeners, our viewers. I cried. I had tears of joy. Because how much the Falcon meant to me. As a kid, all I wanted was the Falcon playset. It was so hard to find.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I love that ship so much.
And I love seeing it, like, brand new and nice and clean. And
it doesn't last. It doesn't get that way very long, because as they're getting off of Kessel, it gets wrecked, because they end up going through the storm and going off chart. And this is how we hear about Han made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
So when they're trying to go through the main path, but all of a sudden, Imperial Star Destroyer is right in front of them.
Shows up.
Yeah.
And I love Han, and this is Han in a nutshell, where he's like, oh, I have a good feeling about this.
Yeah.
Right. And then
they're not going to send TIE fighters after one little measly ship.
And here comes 7 TIE fighters. Right. So it chases them off course, and this is the part of Star Wars that I really love. It's the space chase. It's the kind of dogfighting moments. And there's not really too much dogfighting here, but they're going through the storm, and the Falcon's getting wrecked. they end up running into some big space creature that tries to eat them. Very reminiscent of the one that was in Empire that they thought was a cave, and whatnot. And then we see the Eye of the Storm, and
Yeah.
it's such. I love when Star Wars plays a scale like this because it is such a huge galaxy. But
Yeah.
when you see this, when you see the Falcon up against this creature, and then this creature up against almost this black hole.
Yeah. I forgot that they called it. It was like a gravity pool or
It was
something.
like a gravity well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
And whatnot. So, and Han takes over piloting the ship and shows us how great of a pilot he is when he gives the order to burn some of the coaxium unrefined. It'll give him enough boost.
And
in Grand Falcon fashion, the hyperdrive fails.
that was
first
great.
time, right?
Yeah.
And so these are the small things that I like that they pay homage to, but they don't like, hey, look at this. Remember when it doesn't jump? It's just it feels in line to where these characters are and stuff. But of course they get out, they get to the refinery planet. We're not Han, Lando. Lando just leaves them, which I love. Like he's on his own. He's lost L7 or L3. I did it again. Because she was
the ship is just like wrecked at this point.
It's barely flyable.
Yeah.
And we see Han and Beckett. Beckett's at his wit's end because Enfys Nest shows up, and we find out their story, which I thought this was super cool because up to this point, they just seem like pirates. They don't care. They're just robbing the stuff. But then we find out they're kind of part of the rebellion. Yeah. They're rising up against not just Crimson Dawn, but the Empire itself. Because we find out that Crimson Dawn, the Enfys Nest, is a young girl.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed that reveal. And that Crimson Dawn came to her planet and basically wiped out everybody in the name of like conquering and establishing themselves. And she wants to represent those that can't stand up for themselves. And I was really moved by that. And it's one of those things that the whole movie's not about, but it plays us so well.
Yeah, and it was just another good like foil to give Han this kind of choice between like like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? We have Crimson Dawn's coming here. We need to give them the fuel. But then the Marauders are like, but you have a choice. Like maybe like you can give it to us. You can help the rebellion, help us fight, and then it's just another good like morality choice here.
Yeah, well, and we see with Beckett because Beckett's like, no, man, this is my life. Like we're taking it whether you like it or not. And so him and Han kind of say some words, and he goes, oh well, I got a job on Tatooine for some vicious gangster, which I thought, okay, that's cool because now that seeds Jabba a little bit. But it's exactly who Beckett says he is, right? Yeah. Like he's like, no, we're doing this job. I'm getting my money, whether you like it or not. I don't have time for feelings.
Yeah.
Versus Han, who's just like, well, no, we need to do what's right. Like, yeah, it's cool if I can line my pocket, but deep down, like the world's bigger than us. And I like that dichotomy between the two.
And I feel like it kind of like almost gives you like some context for like A New Hope. Like there's a point where Han can leave, and he does actually, but
right.
You almost get with this context now. You can kind of maybe see him like trying to leave and just being like I'm not Beckett, I'm not that guy, and right. Coming back. Yeah, and so they end up formulating this plan that they're gonna give them fake coaxium, and we're gonna keep it for ourselves and send it off with Enfys Nest. So they meet up with Dryden Voss, and we get this really cool, basically a shootout in his yacht for the coaxium because he feels like, oh no, they've pulled a scam, and come to find out that no, the scam is there is no scam, and that they did everything that just to throw off Voss, and they're basically gonna take him out and leave Crimson Dawn kind of in a cluster. So and we see Kira and her loyalties get tested because
we kind of feel like there's something deeper with Voss, but there's also Han. And the good guys end up winning the day, but there's a heel turn out of Beckett because now he's going to take the coaxium, and it leads to this really good moment with Han and him where there's a shootout.
And well, I like too that, again, just going back to like this feeling like a gangster, like a crime movie, like all of the double crosses and like, I like the gang boss, that it just becomes this kind of like, like 3 or 4 way battle where everyone's kind of like, trying to be like, all right, hey, if you team up with me, like, we can take them, or, oh no, if you team up with me, like, we can do this and that. Like, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we all know that I'm a big wrestling fan, right? So like you'll get these fatal 4-way matches where it's 4 guys against each other, and there'll be alliances that form during each. So guy 1 and guy 2 will team up against guy 3, and then guy 3 and guy 2 will team up against 4, and then all 3 will gang up on 1. And this is what that felt like in that, So yeah, but I really like Paul Bettany and whatever he was, whatever species of alien.
Oh, and he gets mad.
He gets mad, these like scars or whatever they are on his face glow, which I thought was really cool because it felt like classic Star Wars where we're gonna make an alien but just tweak it slightly. You know?
It was subtle but like enough to be like cool and menacing that I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and he can blend in if necessary with the Empire if necessary.
They, like they end up killing him, which it kind of sucks because he was such a cool bad guy. Like it was like, oh man, it would be nice to see him stick around. And unfortunately, when a bad guy dies in Star Wars, they're gone forever.
They are gone forever. Like they never come back.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Dryden Voss. Originally, he was supposed to be played by Michael K. Williams, and it was a motion capture performance.
Okay.
So Omar from The Wire was supposed to be the crime lord, which I would have popped for.
That would have been cool.
Huge, right? And he was supposed to be some like feline puma-looking gangster, which I thought would have been cool.
Okay.
But with all the reshoots, he couldn't make it back to reshoot stuff. So Ron Howard called him Paul Bettany, who's a close friend.
Yeah, get the vision in here.
Yeah, you want some more of that Disney money? Like, let's show up. Which I find it distracting. It's not a fault of anybody but my own, because he's just using his natural voice, which is the voice of the Vision.
Yeah.
So Ashley, my wife, leaned over me at one point and was like, "That's Jarvis." And I was like, "Yes, it is Jarvis." So, But yeah, so we get to the end of the movie, and it comes down to Han versus Beckett.
Yeah.
And it's straight out of a Western. It's almost like 10 paces turn, and they're across from each other. And earlier in the movie, Beckett had warned him, everyone don't trust them. They'll all betray you. And this was a reminder. And then guess what, Tim? Han shoots first.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's so great, yeah.
Yeah. I was the only one in my theater that clapped. So people looked at me like I was weird. And Beckett was surprised by this because he didn't figure Han was that tight.
Yeah. And then he has like and it's actually like I don't know, sadly like touching. Yeah. And then as he's dying, and I like that he's like, good job, I was gonna shoot you, so
exactly, you got me. The apprentice has become the master, but yeah, and it ends in this place where now Kira and Han they can't, she's still part of Crimson Dawn and has to answer for what had happened. Han has to go off on his own to become the legendary smuggler, and him and Chewie are now buddies.
And I think sometimes people kind of criticize like the romance angles not being the best in Star Wars, but I think their relationship was like a pretty good tragic romance. Yeah,
because even if it's not a romance, it also works on a friendship level because that's him leaving his old life behind. Yeah. Right? He was once Han from Corellia, whose dad worked in the ship factories and designed ships. Yeah. And worked for that, millipede lady. And Kira, represents like that new life. So, or that old life, not the new life. So,
and it's nice context for like, he kind of starts off as like this, like, almost seems kind of like a hopeless romantic that just wants to find
Mhm.
this girl and stuff, and then she leaves him, and you can kind of get the context. All right, so this is the kind of guy now that's gonna be more of
Yep.
a love him and leave him kind of person, like
Yeah.
the kind of guy that says I know instead of I love you, like
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I mean that's it. Like a lot of this formulates Han to where he is, uh, and I like that a whole lot
yeah,
because
and I feel
it's
like it does it in nicer kind of subtle story ways instead of like
yeah,
flat out like being like this is why I'm like this. Like you
exactly.
get it all through context of the story.
Well, yeah, and he's always had that swagger to him too, and it feels like that was started here as a shield.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna let anybody hurt me. I'm
Mhm.
gonna hurt them first. So it's always like when he's talking to Leia, he's
Yeah.
like, "I know you love me, princess. Just when you can admit it."
Yeah.
It's that type of stuff. Yeah, and I feel like they nailed that here. So
Yeah.
you're talking about how villains never, you know, they always stay dead. They never
Yeah.
return.
Yeah.
So Kira is the last one standing in the yacht, right? Han's taken off, and she makes a call to this like the top guy, top person in Crimson
Crimson
Dawn,
Dawn.
and we get a hologram, and I was like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And then as she's talking, this voice starts and
Mhm.
wants to know what's been going on. I was like, I know that voice. I've heard that voice before. And the camera rolls around, and who do they reveal as the leader of Crimson Dawn, Tim?
Darth motherfucking Maul.
Oh my God!
I lost my shit. I was like, holy shit, I cannot believe they're doing this. Like
Right.
it because it feels like something like a big like reveal like that. I wouldn't be surprised in like like a Marvel movie or something.
Yeah.
But like you still kind of don't expect like something that big in a Star Wars movie. Even though technically, it's canon from the Clone Wars series that he came back, but like just the fact that it's like like the TV show and comic book canon always feels like a little bit of a lesser canon. Like to have it in the
Yeah.
movies and be like, no, in your face, this is canon. He's back, and
Well,
whew, I
yeah.
was very excited.
So I've been really into Rebels. Like not as much where I watch it every week, but I've been really enjoying the stories they're telling. And they did a story last season with Maul. And he was running the underground for a while. Like
Oh, nice.
he gets rid of in Clone Wars, he gets rid of Pre Vizsla, defeats him in saber combat,
Mhm.
and takes over that section of Mandalore, and then uses Mandalore to take over the underworld.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're tying it to Clone Wars, who I feel like Dave Filoni's really taken the torch from George Lucas as like the big cool idea guy.
Mhm.
The fact that they're tying it into Rebels, like I want more of this. And again, it doesn't have to be more Han. It could be a
Yeah.
Boba Fett movie where we get to see Fett and Maul interact.
Oh my god.
Like,
Yeah, just that was like the biggest thing for me is just the amount of possibilities for this because it definitely doesn't have to be a Han movie, but this is stuff you can now explore in like more underground criminal movies, and you could have something with Boba Fett or just other people working like with Maul and there's so much possibilities. I'm really excited about it.
And they just have to show up the side characters too. Like I don't need Maul to be the Darth Vader, if you will.
Sure.
Like, to keep popping up as a physical threat. I like just his atmosphere that he brings.
Yeah.
And the fact that they got Ray Park, but they used Sam Witwer's voice, to bring that back to what they'd done in Phantom Menace, to where it was Peter Serafinowicz as the voice. I thought, holy crap! There's been since The Last Jedi, there's been a lot of discussion of what is Star Wars and what feels like Star Wars, and I try to stay away from those because it's very subjective to what Star Wars means to everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm safe to say that Solo feels like Star Wars because to me it felt like an episode or even a mini series of Rebels and of that level of canon. Where it might not be for everybody. Not everybody is going to like it nearly as much as we have. But even my wife, who's so fatigued on Star Wars, she really liked it. So, nice. So,
so far, I've only had like one friend that seemed to not really like it, but everyone else I've talked to or has seen it has been like, And kind of like surprising too, to the point where like, yeah, I kind of loved it. Like I wasn't expecting to, but yeah, it's just I don't think it's like I mean maybe again whether or not you like or don't like The Last Jedi, I think it was like a very like ballsy move to kind
Oh,
of
big
do
time.
some of the stuff, but I feel like this is more of a safe movie where it's not rocking the boat, it's not really like changing anything or going to make you look at anything different really, but it's just a solid like fun like ride with these
Yeah.
characters, with these places and ideas that you kind of come to know and like in Star Wars, but at the same time presenting it in like a new kind of like genre, a new kind of
Mhm.
like story that I feel like makes it feel different enough where it's not just like a retread or something. So
Yeah, and it doesn't not play on the nostalgia as much as like The Force
yeah,
Awakens,
like
because again, there's like, hey, you remember this? Like we see him
mhm,
get his blaster that he's famous for having,
yeah.
but I
The,
felt like
there
they
was a
didn't go
few
like, hey, look, it's his blaster.
yeah. There's a
Yeah,
few things like that for me where I was like this is cool, but I don't think you need to like frame it so much because like he always has his blaster, but it was never like a big thing. Like it was never like there's a scene where he's like, by the way, this is my blaster. Like, I always
yeah,
got to have it by my side because it means so much to me. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, we don't need to
yeah.
focus on it so much. And I'm sorry. I've seen the original stuff a million times, but
Yeah.
like, I,
The
I do
dice.
not, the dice. Yeah. Was that ever a thing? Like, did I miss that or something? Like,
No, so even from what I heard, those dice they're in the cockpit, right,
okay.
of Falcon. You can go
Mhm.
back and see them, but they were just put there for like a little bit of like atmosphere and
Okay.
like this is this guy's like he's a trucker, right?
Yeah.
Like these are his fuzzy
Mhm.
dice.
Mm.
Uh, so much in fact that when they brought them in for either Force Awakens or Last Jedi,
Yeah.
they had to find a replica because they
Uh,
couldn't find the originals
oh.
because that's how kind of little they meant. And
Yeah.
I understand that that's his thing because Han's a gambler, right? Like he
Yeah.
gambles with his fate.
Mhm.
It's just a little too much.
Yeah,
So
it's just a weird I don't mind the dice or whatever. It just seems like weird to kind of try to make a thing out of like uh,
uh,
a thing that I didn't think was a thing.
yeah,
But
definitely.
I know we got to kind of wrap up soon. So just
Yeah,
one thing I do want to mention, like kind of I said earlier, like I had maybe one kind of bigger complaint. Um, and for me, I feel like there was like a lot of character deaths in this where like first it starts off with like Beckett's team like almost
right.
like his whole team dies and then
Yeah,
yeah have like a L3 die and it's fine to have like a character die or whatever, but I feel like in this movie there was a lot of deaths and they were all rushed, and then yeah, like it just seemed weird because you had to get to a point where these characters that are very important to other like side characters we don't know as
yeah.
well are dying, and then the characters just kind of like Beckett just has to be like okay in the next scene,
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's very a takeaway. Like, because especially with Rico and Val, I want to see more of them.
yeah,
Like, if they were to get a prequel comic, I wouldn't be like
sure,
what they were
yeah,
up to before, like what led to them ending up on that mud planet,
yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that. Like,
And then
he
I
gets
think it's
over it
just
quick, like
yeah
almost like a sociopath, like
yeah
level of not caring.
yeah I think it's just like it's just a matter of there's like a lot in the story that you have to get through, and it's already a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, so you can't really explore the characters going through
Yeah,
these beats, which I totally understand. It's just and it doesn't like it's just I guess if I had one nitpick maybe it would be that, but I understand why you have to get through it and stuff.
yeah, definitely. So before we wrap up, we do end the movie with
Mhm.
Han actually winning the Falcon.
Oh right
Because it almost felt like a post credit that wasn't a post credit because it was at the end of the movie.
I can see
Um,
that.
but yeah, so he sees, he remembers that Lando cheated. So we still get the Sabak game where he fair and square beats Lando at his own game and wins the Falcon. So it leaves us at where we need to be for whatever adventures. And
Yeah.
I hear it's underperforming this weekend, which is a shame.
Now,
Um,
so what does that exactly mean? Because like, it's not going to get like $1 billion like maybe the other Star Wars
yeah,
movies, but it's still going to do good, right? Like, it's not going to.
yeah,
I
no, it's
don't know.
still. I mean, Disney's it doesn't matter because they're playing with house money at this point.
Yeah.
They've already made their investment back off of buying Lucasfilm, so they're fine with it. I just, a lot gets made about box office, and I wish it would do well, but I also feel like the troubled production and whatnot, I feel everybody heard about.
Yeah.
So they're gonna wait, and the critics haven't exactly been me and you. They've been a little bit more objective. I got to give certain ones credit. But yeah, so we'll see. So again, that's why I keep stressing it doesn't have to be a Han sequel. If there is, I'm more than okay with that because I love Han Solo. He's my favorite Star Wars character. But even if just set in this world, we know that we're getting a James Mangold Boba Fett movie.
It's gonna be so good.
Can't wait. I'm so stoked for that. Like, and Han could have a cameo in that. Like, we get Alden Ehrenreich there, and so.
I'm really excited about what's coming next. Like, it's I would definitely be down for more Han stuff, but even that, like, I want to see the criminal stuff explored. I want to see more of Lando. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can do at this point. Yeah.
So that was our review of Solo Star Wars Story. So, rating, Tim. What would you rate this?
I think I'd probably go with like maybe let's say an 8 for right now, but I think like I'm gonna see it again. Like I've been having trouble going out to the theaters a lot because of like just work and life and stuff. But I know
you got a lot going on. Like you have a big day coming up, so understandable.
But I mean, this is definitely day one on Blu-ray. I'm gonna buy this, so I look forward to watching it again. So I can see maybe the score inching up a little bit once I see it again. But I think for right now, I'd say like an 8.
Yeah, so I'm in the same spot as you, although I'm gonna give it a little bit higher, an 8.5. That's fair. Because I love it. I'm trying to find a spot this weekend to see it again. I just got a lot going on. As everyone knows, also
you have tomorrow off, right?
I do, but there's a Stanley Cup hockey game being played here in town, so we got to go down and check that out.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So that's going to get a lot of the way. So, but I'll eventually get out and see it again. It's as I said earlier, it's my favorite Star Wars movie. Yeah. So and it was great. So, this has been 1.21 gigawatts. Special for Solo. I'm gonna make it special. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Twitter at mild_fuzz. If you liked us so much that you'd like to pay us, there's a Patreon link in the description. You can check that out. I think it's patreon.com/mildfuzztv.
Yep.
And if you want to hit up me and Tim on Twitter, you can find Tim at
Tim Vargulish.
Are you on Twitter? Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if you're on Twitter. So.
Oh no, definitely. Yeah, it's just at Tim Vargulish, last name Vargulish.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter at MattofSteel57. And
I would say, and unfortunately, do you know Connor's Twitter name offhand?
Yeah, Connor's at ConnorRyan94. I know that better than he does because I yell at it that it's his name and his year of birth.
Yeah, because I would say, unfortunately, he wanted to be here, but he's probably, if not as big, bigger.
He's running his own
fan.
scams.
Yeah,
yeah, he's running his own scams on the hard streets of his hometown. Yeah. So,
but
check
if you have
him
any
out.
questions about Star Wars, I would, you can hit him up too.
And if you want to know what Pete thought, hit him up at Wooble89. I want to say.
I'll give you a guess right now if you want.
Yeah.
I can guess what I thought of the movie.
Yeah. But he loves Star Wars, so hit him up. Like, he definitely thinks Star Wars is better than Firefly.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Shut up. I'm dying.
All right, guys. Before I get the cane, this is 1.21 gigawatts. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may the Force be with you, kind of.
The Expanse is better. Bye, guys.